Hello, and welcome to Big Sound Small Town. I'm your host, Sandy Carlton. The small towns and communities of Cleveland County, North Carolina have long been a hotbed of music in all its many forms. Several Cleveland County musicians have found commercial success and critical acclaim in the music industry. Yeah, everybody knows that Earl Scruggs, Don Gibson, Patty Loveless, and Alicia Bridges are from Cleveland County. Donald Byrd, too. So this is not a podcast about them. This is a podcast about the musicians who are still here to keep music alive here. This is the stories, and you need to know them and know the people who are making the music. This is not your normal podcast.
Well, there's 95% who are trying to be good. There's people playing bluegrass music trying to be understood. And there's nobody here who's out for fight and blood. Said the guy, wonder what that couple's doing over there in the mud. Well, we're sorted now, we'll never get out of this tent. I guess we done it now, we're in the 5%. Because there's moonshine, opium, and rose and grass. And I don't know how long all this can last. Well, I'd like to leave, but I can't even find the road. So crawl in the tent, zip up that sack, roll us a number, and we'll go back to music and dancing up in young road. Because there's moonshine, opium, and rose and grass. And I don't know how long all this can last. Well, I'd like to leave, but I can't even find the road. So crawl in the tent, zip up that sack, roll us a number, and we'll go back to music and dancing up your young road. Yeah, we'll go back to music and dancing up your young road.
What you just heard was the band Les Honk from an October 28, 2007 reunion show. The name of the song was Union Grove. My guest today was a big part of that band. He was a forerunner of Americana music. If you'll listen, there is a banjo. It does sound bluegrass, but there's an electric guitar in there and a drum kit. And it was an original tune. The forefather of Americana music was my guest for this show. His name is Darrell Allison. Give him a listen. Today on Big Sound Small Town, my guest is what some would argue to be the founding father of Americana music, at least in Cleveland County, Mr. Darrell Allison.
Thanks.
Welcome to the show.
Well, I appreciate it. I love talking about music, and
Talk about some music. Where did the love for music start with you?
it's as far back as I can remember. I can remember I was doing a pretty good Elvis impression at age 6.
Oh yeah, that's good.
And then as I grew up, I of course had the radio on all the time, and I was a real big Ricky Nelson fan, as was Elvis. Elvis thought that Ricky Nelson had the look and the voice that everybody should have, and then later on, I started listening to late night radio, WLS in Chicago.
Oh yeah.
I could get them.
That was one of the ones I could get off.
I could get them on a little transistor radio, hidden beneath the covers, so my mother wouldn't know that I was staying up so late. And that's where I first heard the Beatles, I believe, about 1963 or sometime. And so I just had a love of music. And coming on up through high school, of course, there was the Monkees TV show, and there was Hullabaloo, and there was Shindig. Before that, there was Hootenanny. I had a love of folk music too, so it was. I didn't discriminate.
I kind of came along with some of the Arthur Smith for breakfast crowd.
Oh yeah. Arthur Smith and Fred Kirby were daily watching fare, and I had to watch Arthur Smith before I went to school every morning.
So at what point did you decide you were going to play music as opposed to just listening?
Well, it was on in high school, well, maybe about 8th or 9th grade. I decided I was going to be a drummer, and I got a set of drums and tried to start little bands and failed. And I never had really played guitar. I didn't know. I had an old acoustic guitar, but I couldn't play it because it was so bad. And Bud McSwain invited me over to his house, and he had a red Fender Mustang, I believe,
Oh yeah.
and a Sears Silvertone amp. And he showed me Big Boss Man by Jimmy Reed on there, and I didn't know what Jimmy Reed was, and he told me, he said, this is real rhythm and blues, and and it was.
Yeah.
It was something real that I'd never heard before, and so I got interested in all kinds of blues and rhythm and blues and country and bluegrass, and because every Saturday night we listened to Flatt and Scruggs on TV. Both my parents and my wife's parents would have that on regardless. And of course, Grand Ole Opry and various other shows, which left me thinking that there was no difference in music. I mean, if you were playing country or you're playing rock and roll or rockabilly or rhythm and blues or whatever you're playing music. So that was fine with me. But it was the real turning point was that with Bud McSwain, which showed me that you could have an electric guitar and you could play some pretty outstanding stuff. So I got me a $30, I bought it from Ronnie Ash, who sat behind me in the 10th grade. It was an amp in case.
Oh, okay.
The Silvertone amp in case, single pickup.
Yes.
Terrible guitar, although now they sell for like $500-600 a piece. And I ended up selling it for $30. I wish I hadn't.
I must admit I own one.
Yeah, I'd love to have one now, but I don't want to pay what they want for
I
it.
didn't pay for what they wanted for it either. Were you still in high school at this time?
Now, still in high school and still trying to start a band. Desperately trying to start something, and Steve McCraw, who lives down the road here, I got him to play my drum kit,
Okay.
and I played guitar, and I borrowed a bass for my brother. He could play most anything, but he just didn't have an interest in it really. Not like I did, like wanting to be cutting edge, I guess.
So what were you doing when you guys were putting this together?
I remember our favorite song was "Hang On Sloopy" by the McCoys, which we thought was just really, really cool. But Doug Benson was in my high school class, and he played lead guitar for me. But
Doug Benson, by the way, is the loudest guitar player I've ever played with in my life. Just throwing that in.
well, I've played with a couple louder ones since then. But the music bug never left me, and Bud went off to the Air Force, so he was my mentor. And so I lost contact with him about 1967, and I went to Gardner Webb a year, and I didn't find anybody over there that knew music like I knew music, and went to Appalachia, and I still didn't connect with anybody up there. Although summer of '68, I met one of my best friends, Scott DeBrule, and another friend they both went to Chase High School. Sherman Tate, who now he lives in the Raleigh area, and he plays all the time. It's Shaking Sherman and the Sheetrockers, or Shaking Sherman and the DTs, or something like that. But I met these two guys at a summer job in '68, and I realized that they like music the way I like music. That they knew that music meant something beyond just a clever tune and 12 notes. So I hooked up with them in '68, and we've been friends ever since. Although I had a little folky act, which I tried to do in college, which had a harmonica holder and a guitar and a strong Bob Dylan influence. But and as a matter of fact, I played a double bill one night with Alicia Bridges when she was a folkie.
That's a good one. That's really good. So she was a folk singer at one point.
So I usually met Alicia Bridges at some Methodist youth social thing.
That's funny.
in the fellowship hall of some Methodist church. But later on, she became Queen of Disco.
She did.
And I'm sure she doesn't remember anything we did. But it never did develop into much, although I was constantly in contact with these other guys from Chase. I mean, it turned out there was a pack of them, about 8 or 10 of them, who loved music and loved to go to concerts. And back then, the biggest thing I ever went to was Jubilee in Chapel Hill. I had a chance to go to that twice, and I thought, well, that's just wonderful.
That was wonderful, actually.
We got to see, I saw Paul Butterfield Blues Band, I saw the Johnson Brothers, I saw the Mad Dog and the Englishman tour with Leon Russell and Joe Cocker. So I was just in heaven hanging out with these guys from Rutherford County, and still hang out with them. But I'll have to get to that later. Then Bud moved back to Cleveland County, and after being in the Air Force for 4 years, and we hooked up together, and we started playing, 2 or 3 times a week, just messing around. I mean, we were just entertaining ourselves, because this was like the early '70s, and we had not made a lot of money, so that was our entertainment, was we played songs for each other. And then later on, Bud went to work at the Volkswagen place, and they started having a picking every Friday night at the Volkswagen place after it shut down. So that started getting more and more popular, and then we met Mitchell Self, and he joined in with us, and we were enjoying ourselves, just not with no ambition.
Right.
And one day we went to see this band called Smoking Grass.
Yeah.
With we knew Richard Waldrop,
Yeah.
who was in it, and there was Art Brooks and Dale Britton and a couple other guys. Anyway, they were doing Newgrass Revival. I mean, they were like letter perfect Newgrass Revival covers. Of course, the Newgrass Revival were covering things like the Beatles and Bob Marley, and so Mitchell and Bud and I decided that we could do that too, only we would do something a little bit different, because we had been listening to all kind of other music.
Other than bluegrass.
Yeah, all kinds of country and rock and roll, and but we liked the bluegrass format, the Newgrass Revival format, and so we got together, and first we had Ronnie Love, who's one of those Rutherford County guys, to play banjo for us, and I got my buddy Steve McCraw that lives down the road here to play bass. He didn't even own a bass, but we finally, he got a bass and we got a bass amp, and so we had a complete ensemble there. Mitchell played mandolin and Bud played guitar, and we thought, yeah, this is going to work. And then Ronnie had to quit, and so we got our eyes on David Martin.
Old David Martin.
David Martin was playing with Brushy Creek, and they were playing traditional bluegrass. And we kept telling David, traditional bluegrass is great, but there's something else you need to do. And we knew David, he could play fiddle, he could play dobro, he could play mandolin, guitar, he could play anything he picked up. And so we finally talked him into joining us, and that was the Let's Honk that started out. And we got the name because
I was going to ask you where
the name came from was when we were at some of those late night pickings, either at the Volkswagen place or at our houses or wherever we were picking. After about midnight, we'd say, "Okay, let's honk." And so honking became the guys I play with now, they still say, "Let's do some honking."
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, I mean, that was the saying around here for a pretty good while.
Let's honk.
Yeah.
And we went on like that for a while. Later on, we added Randy Saxon on electric guitar. He could play a Telecaster like nobody's business. And David Roof, who had been a veteran of various bands around here, he joined us on drums. And then I sort of had my vision complete, because when I started out, my vision was not being like Newgrass Revival, but being like the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band.
Ah, yeah, okay.
Because the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, they would play rock and roll, and then they would play bluegrass, and then they'd play hardcore country, and then they would mix it all together and play folk music or whatever came to mind. And I thought, well, that's what you ought to do. That is what you should do. You should play anything that comes to mind. And so I guess that's why we're considered ahead of our time, because that's what Americana is today.
You were one of the first bluegrass format bands I saw with the Telecaster and with drums. So
yeah, it seemed to me to be the thing to do.
I'll say your set list. Well, just give me a rundown of what maybe one of your set lists would include.
Well, we did do some originals. Mitchell was a good writer, but our set list might start off with "The End Is Not in Sight," by the Amazing Rhythm Aces, and then we'd switch to Long Black Veil, which is a traditional country song, but we played a version which was like 4 times faster than the original so that people could dance. And we played July You're a Woman, which was a song by John Stewart. We'd cover the Eagles, we'd cover hardcore country like She Thinks I Still Care, which is George Jones' tune. Then we would play we didn't mind playing a traditional bluegrass or two, but we would jam it up. And then we started getting bookings. Just small parties at first, and then we started playing bars. We played Buffy's up in Tryon, which we really liked playing up there. And we played a bar in Spartanburg called Mickey's. We played the Coal Yard in York. Playing that gig got us a gig at the beach playing in a biker bar, which was that was kind of risky. But we played the Old Prospector in Charlotte. We had this set of bars that were kind of in the area. Of course, we played stuff in Shelby too, as well.
You had a pretty good following in this town.
Yeah.
Almost a cult, John Prine-ish, Grateful Dead-ish type of following.
Yeah, I know. We would be in some foreign city like Spartanburg and see all the same people show up down there. You know, it was kind of shocking, really. I didn't realize this was going to happen, but I enjoyed it a lot. Don't get me wrong. But I guess the best thing that happened to us was we got hooked up with Steve Metcalf and Green Acres.
Oh, yes, I do know about Green Acres.
Oh, Green Acres was the place to be.
It was the place to be.
We saw a lot of good shows up there and participated in a lot of good shows. And we were kind of like the cancellation sure thing. If somebody from Nashville or wherever couldn't show up like they were supposed to, Let's Honk could jump up there, and the show went on. I guess our biggest thrill at Green Acres was we got to open for Newgrass Revival one time, and actually did the sound for them, and then went to the after party with them. So, we really thought we were in high cotton at that time.
I'm sure you did.
And so I'm forever grateful to Steve Metcalf for having faith in us, and things went on like that for a while, and then I had 2 little girls that I felt like I needed to spend more time with, and of course we all had full-time jobs, and we were staying out till 2 in the morning and then getting up and going to a job the next day. So it got to be too much to do on a regular basis. I mean, so I just had to slow it down, and we did a few more gigs, reunion gigs, and all like that, and stayed friends and enjoyed music for several years, and then of course Bud passed away, and David has had some health problems, and Randy went on to play with David Childers. so
and I think David Roos in Florida.
Yeah, David Roos in Florida. Steve McCraw moved to Spartanburg, and he's got a recording studio down there, Apple Tree Music, which he enjoys doing, and he plays with a band occasionally called Motherload. He's still a great bass player.
And what have you done since then?
Well, Mitchell and I, we went over to the Dragonfly one night, and there were some guys playing over there, and And we thought, well, shoot, we can play over here. I had a sound system, and we had all our instruments and mics and stuff left over. And I said, well, why don't we go over to the Dragonfly and do a duo? And so we did that for a while, playing some of the similar stuff. And then Mitchell, he moved to Atlanta so he could be close to his grandkids, and didn't blame him for that. And so I floundered around a little bit, but I was still friends with these guys in Rutherford County who occasionally, they weren't all still in Rutherford County, they were in various places, but I was still friends with them. And I met one, Michael Sperling. I met him in college, 1968, and we were still friends. So he said, well, come on up, we play in the basement every now and then. And Ronnie Love, our old banjo player, he was part of it, and then several other people that I knew who had been in various bands, various times. We just started playing in the basement for fun, and then they said, well, we can get a gig over at Barley's Tap Room.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been doing.
What you're doing now.
Is occasionally, maybe every 2 months or so, we go over to Barley's Tap Room, and we're the cancellation band for them too. If they can't get a band together.
Well, it's great that you're still doing this after all these years. I mean, some people play for a little while and just disappear.
I like it so much because, well, for one thing, I think that music that we played shouldn't get lost, and I probably enjoy it more now than ever before because there's no pressure. I can just play what I want to play, and
That's good. That's real good. Did your didn't your daughters sing some too? Didn't you do some stuff with them?
yeah, my daughters are real good singers. I mean, they do that sister harmony, and my granddaughter, she's probably the best singer of all. She just turned 25. So I'm an old guy.
All right. Well, we were talking about your daughters.
Yes,
Granddaughter.
and my granddaughter. They sing well, and I try to get something going with them, but they've got so many distractions. I mean, like my younger daughter Bonnie, she's flown out of town now for her work, and my older daughter Bethany, she works half the time in Charlotte and is on the road on 85 most of the day, and my granddaughter, she's working, and she's got things to do, and it's just hard to get them together.
Well, it's a good thing they're working. I mean, at least they're all
Yeah.
have jobs.
Yeah, and my daughters, of course, having to raise kids too, and
Oh yeah.
I wish I could get them together to sing, and so I was gonna try to get something worked up. I'm going to a party on the 6th of July, and so I was trying to get them worked up to do a couple of numbers at this party, and then they said, well, we got to go to the beach on the 6th. It's the only time we can get away. Anyway, I enjoy it so much, and I'm so glad that I still have this group of people in Rutherford County that enjoy the same kind of stuff I like.
Well,
Hang on, Mac. We're doing a podcast here.
We're good. We're just about to wrap it up. You're good. All right. Well, Darrell, I appreciate you being with us today. You have a very interesting story, and it's been a pleasure.
Well, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I would like to say in conclusion of my podcast with Darrell Allison that I don't think we can convey in this podcast just how important a figure he was in Cleveland County music. He influenced a lot of bands and their repertoires in this town for years. His influence is still heard. Again, I think he's the founding father of Americana music. He was certainly a big influence on my decisions to play covers. And he still plays around, and I'm sure that his show is still on the cutting edge. If you get a chance, go out and see him. Thank you.